happening, y'all? Welcome to Throwin Stones. I'm Matt Basson. He's Ryan Griffin. You don't know by now. You should know. We're talking hoops, and more hoops, and not just our beloved Pistons. Before we get rolling, got to remind you, like, subscribe, everywhere you can find us. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. What am I forgetting? Instagram. We on there too.
All the things you spend your time on all day. Just real quick. 2 seconds.
Real quick. We got to dive right in. There's drama in La La Land, and LeBron is at it again, man. Head coach comes in, head coach goes out. We've seen this before. Frank Vogel, Los Angeles Lakers, already agreeing to split at year's end. It depends how you look at it with the LeBron situation. Like, you think of all the greats that have played the game of basketball. Michael Jordan had Phil Jackson. Kobe and Shaq had Phil Jackson. Magic had Pat Riley. Larry Bird had some pretty decent coaches out in Boston. Casey Jones, pretty good one. You got LeBron. And who's the greatest head coach that's really coached for him? Now, by the time his career is done, we're going to say Eric Spoelstra. Absolutely. But when Eric Spoelstra coached him, Eric Spoelstra wasn't Eric Spoelstra yet. He was the guy behind Pat Riley, essentially. And then he became the guy in front of Pat Riley. And Pat Riley was kind of doing this behind him. Yeah. But LeBron and head coaches has never been a good mesh. And here we are again, a team that, let's not mince words here, LeBron put together. And shocker, because this happens every time, it's not working. So Vogel getting the boot.
Yeah, the only thing I guess I'd push back on is, as far as Eric Spoelstra, like when Phil Jackson was coaching the Bulls the first time, like he wasn't Phil Jackson yet. True. But Eric Spoelstra is a really good coach. They had that top 12 NBA coaches ever or something of all time, and I'm pretty sure he was on that list.
I think it was
that came out, a couple weeks ago, maybe like a month or two ago at this point. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not Vogel's fault, right? Whatever's happened with Los Angeles, you gave him always injured Anthony Davis. You gave him a Russell Westbrook who doesn't appear like he wants to take any role besides what Russell Westbrook has always taken, which is the number one man. I'm going to get my numbers. I'm going to turn the ball over. They ask him about it in the press conference. He says, I'll just turn it over again. What are you going to do about it? And then, you give him a LeBron James who is a great teammate on the basketball court, but off the court, I can't imagine he's so endearing to, all these different players. And then the rest of the Lakers roster, like, truthfully, is just garbage. Like, Avery Bradley plays a bunch of minutes for them. Avery Bradley got cut by the Warriors before the season started. Who else do they have? Austin Reeves, who's been better than I guess you thought he would be. Mm-hmm. But other than that, they're relying on minutes from guys like Dwight Howard, right? Or just like older stars. This is the oldest team. Yeah, Melo is literally the oldest team in NBA history. Mm-hmm. And you gave Frank Vogel this roster 2 years ago. They won a title. A lot of that was probably COVID aided, since it allowed LeBron and Anthony Davis, to rest their bodies at the end of the regular season before the bubble ramped back up. Mm-hmm. But I don't think Frank Vogel's a bad coach. I don't think any of the pitfalls with Los Angeles are really his fault. But much like with LeBron teams we've seen in the past, and really any team that has a star and they just kind of fizzle out after a while, the coach is always the one who feels like, ends up getting punished or blamed. Typically, you're not moving on from the star. You're going to move on from the coach.
Right. But in this particular instance, there is a track record with said star. Now, when he came into the league with the Cavaliers, LeBron didn't have a great head coach, and then it became Mike Brown very quickly after that. And Mike Brown got a lot of praise and stuff. He's a defensive coach and he worked under, Greg Popovich. And so like there was all this fanfare to go along with his name of what he could be. And I never thought of him personally as a good coach. And I think for me personally, what told me for sure I was right that he wasn't a good coach was when the Cavaliers lost to Orlando in the playoffs, the year the Lakers just smashed the Magic in the finals in 2009, because you had a team that was killing you from outside and a center to go with in Dwight Howard, who was killing Zydrunas Ilgauskas. And on your bench, you have Ben Wallace. You have Ben Wallace on your bench, and you're not playing him at all. At all. What are you doing? You have a center who went toe-to-toe with Shaq and was able to hold his own. Is Dwight Howard going to beat him? Yes, of course he is. But is Ben Wallace going to do maybe enough to keep your team in this still and give you guys a chance to win that round? I think personally, yes. And I didn't see any adjustments made by Mike Brown when you realize that the Magic are just going to kill you with outside shooting of Hedo Turkoglu and Rashard Lewis to go along with the inside game of Dwight Howard at that point, and you make no adjustments to really attack that and find a way to defend it. I was like, yeah, this guy cannot coach. And so when LeBron left after all those debacles in Cleveland, I always said I understood it. He gave you 7 years, and the best players he got back in those 7 years was an over-the-hill Shaq and Antoine Jameson.
Larry Hughes was an all-star.
Yeah, but that's it. But like the players he got in his first 7 years, and you can throw out the fan favorite things of Anderson Varejao, Zildrunas, Boogie, all that
Antoine
crap.
James, maybe.
Yeah, they're not that great of basketball players. All right, so you didn't give this man much help, so he had to go. The way he did it, I'll still never understand. I think it was a terrible decision. I'm going to leave it at that. But so then he goes to Miami, and it was going to be Pat Riley, right? And then Pat Riley dipped and gave it to Eric Spoelstra, but Pat Riley was still going to be an advisory role. I think that was the way it worked his first year in Miami. And then it just became Spo completely after that. Worked out well in Miami. But as Brian Windhorst, ESPN's Brian Windhorst went on to say this past week, is that LeBron has this 4-year itch, essentially, where he did it in Miami. It was 4 years. They went to 4 finals, had great teammates around him, but they run out of their draft picks by bringing in all these players. And by the time everything is done, the players are getting older and they're tired and they want to retire, or they're just not playing as well. He goes back to Cleveland, who, while he was gone, got 3 first-round picks out of the 4 years that he's in Miami. I still don't understand how that ever happened. Probably just to make sure LeBron went back to Cleveland. Does a 4-year run in Cleveland, gets rid of the young cats that could become something to bring in guys he wants to play with. They went to the finals a bunch of times. They won one of them. And then he's off to La La Land.
That's your team.
I'm sorry. I forgot. While he was in Cleveland, he kicked out David Blatt, brought in his boy Ty Lue.
Well, that worked out.
And in LA, versus Luke Walton. Shocker here, Luke Walton's last year in LA is LeBron's first year. So that wasn't happening. They bring in Frank Vogel. They win a bubble title. And like you said, COVID, I think, played a big factor in that. You gave older bodies chances to rest. But just like in Cleveland, just like in Miami, the young cats are swept out to bring in guys that LeBron wants. Now, look, we can nitpick, and I'm going to, but he went to a lot of finals. Won a couple of them, but he went to a lot of finals. But you're hemorrhaging the franchise to let this man have a couple years with you. And he's probably not going to leave LA. It's LA. He enjoys his family being there, the stardom, the fame, the life of luxury. Because look, you can have a great life of luxury in Cleveland. It's going to be a heck of a lot better in LA. Probably a heck of a lot better in Miami too. But I'm still going to take LA over South Beach, me personally. But we've seen this cycle from LeBron where it just ends up killing a franchise for years afterwards.
Yeah, this is what LeBron does. And I think the reason is LeBron is such a smart basketball player. Like, he has such a high basketball IQ.
So he has to be a dumb GM?
No, but when he's butting heads with the coaches, it's like hard to tell LeBron James, no, you're wrong. This is what you should be doing. Because LeBron's going to feel like he's smarter than the coach. And in some cases, he might be absolutely right. But what that does is it clouds your judgment into thinking you're right all the time. And that's not what happens. That's what gets the coaches frustrated. That's what gets the other players frustrated. And frankly, that's what gets like LeBron frustrated. And this year is, I think we've seen, at least on the court, it seems like it's the most frustrated LeBron has ever been. I know off the court, he's on Snapchat and Instagram Live, drinking wine, living his best Los Angeles lifestyle. But on the court, it seemed like he's yelling at his teammates more, especially when the Lakers, were, I would say in a slump, but they've been in a slump all season. They're facing elimination tonight. By the time this comes out, they might very well be eliminated from the playoffs. The only defense that I would give LeBron in the whole coach killing narrative, which I do think is a fair one, right? I don't think it's something that you say just if you hate LeBron, is the coaches he's run out. A lot of them have largely been trash. Luke Walton went to the Kings. Super bad there. Mike Brown, he went to the Lakers. They saw enough after 5 games. They started 0-5, and then they swept them out.
Said, "Oh, hell no."
David Blatt never got another NBA head coaching opportunity after taking a team to the finals. So, we don't know what's going to happen with Frank Vogel. Frank Vogel's probably, sadly, the best coach that he's gotten fired. He tried it with Spo too, and then Pat Riley had the chutzpah to tell him, "No, we're not doing that."
I don't care who you are. I'm Pat Riley.
And if you're LeBron, it makes a lot of sense when you look at the names that the Lakers are going after. Right? It was reported in the same piece, I think, by Jake Fisher, is the one who reported Vogel and the Lakers are going to split at season end. The Lakers are eyeing Doc Rivers, who obviously coaches the Sixers, and then Quinn Snyder, who coaches the Jazz. And with those two guys, they're both better coaches than Frank Vogel. I don't think it's really even a debate. And the Lakers don't have any draft picks. They are the oldest team in basketball history. Their group of young guys are pretty much non-existent, right? You got Talen Horton-Tucker, who it looks like a mistake that they extended him and chose him over some of the other guys that they ended up, choosing him over, famously refusing to trade him for Kyle Lowry just last year because they liked what they had so much in him. So for LeBron, I don't blame him at all for trying to get a better established coach in there when he knows his championship window is like this thin, at least in Los Angeles, which is where I would assume he would want to finish his career. Although he's already said he's going to play at least with the Sun for at least 1 year, but who knows how far off like in the future that is. So while the Lakers are bad, or even while they still have LeBron and Anthony Davis, maybe they can move some pieces around, try and trick somebody to take Russell Westbrook. To me, it makes sense for him to want to get the best coach possible. Even if Frank Vogel isn't a bad coach, say he's a top 10 coach in the NBA. I don't think he is. He might be on the fringe. He's obviously one of the only ones with the championship. If you can try and get a top 5 coach like Doc or Quinn Snyder in there, to me, it makes all the sense in the world for LeBron to do it. I would kind of like to see Doc Rivers there. I just think it'd be hilarious, like clashing of egos, because Doc has a coaching ego of his own, right? He throws players under the bus. He threw James Harden under the bus like 3 days ago. So for Doc, someone who's won a championship, obviously beating LeBron along that route to get to the title, that's personally what I'm rooting for. And I think he'd be a fool to take the Lakers job next year, though, with how this roster looks.
Do you think it's going to make any difference? Like, if I ask you to tell me the offensive strategy of any of LeBron's head coaches, could you tell me what it was? Could you tell me what their offensive game plan was? Because to me, it's LeBron is the ball, LeBron is the ball, LeBron is the ball, LeBron is the ball. His teammates stand around. They might run from side to side a little bit and change positions from 3 to 4 and 2 to 3, but I don't see anything as far as a fluid offensive movement in basketball with his teams. And look, coming off of what we're watching and we'll be talking about at the end of this show, Winning Time, talking about Jack McKinney talking to Kareem and trying to get Kareem involved, in the offense. And Kareem sitting there going, by the end of the game, I'm going to have 30 points. I'm going to have 10 rebounds. Like, to me, that, like, when I heard that, I'm like, that's LeBron. Because you can't talk to this man about a different kind of offense.
It's definitely LeBron this year. He's going after the scoring title hard.
Right. And that's the thing, is he's getting his. He will always get his. He is bigger, stronger, faster than anybody else in the NBA. He is always going to be able to get his. That is what's made his life so, quote unquote, easy in the NBA, is when you have a high skill set and you also happen to be 6'8.5", 260 pounds of a mostly muscle, and it's a league where you can bully your way into the paint and get fouls called, get to the free throw line, get his buckets and dunks because he's freakishly athletic, and we've always known that. But I was talking to I was gone for this last week, and I was talking to one of my best friends out there, and he's a big LeBron head. And I posed the question to him. So LeBron right now, he's going to be this was a hypothetical LeBron career question, actually. So LeBron right now in real life, 6 times to the finals, 4-6 record. He's going to end up being, right? Or 7
times to the finals. 10 times to the finals. You said 6 times to the finals.
Sorry. 10 times to the finals, 4-6 record. He's going to end up being the number 1 scorer of all time, most likely. All right. He is stupidly high on the assist lists, on the rebounding list, all the stats. LeBron is up there.
Mm-hmm. Till Luka passes him in 20 years.
Say LeBron had a different outlook in basketball. Say he had a more Magic Johnson outlook in basketball. I'm not worried about my points. I'm worried about the team winning. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to make this team win. Now, I'm not saying LeBron isn't like this. Yes, I am. But say in the end, LeBron's career was top 6 scorer of all time. Not top 5. He got the number 6. Okay? So he wasn't a top 5 scorer of all time. But he went to the same number of finals as he's been to. And he's 7-3 in the finals instead of 4-6. Because his style of basketball invited players who wanted to be there because they knew they were going to get theirs playing with him. Is that a better career and a better legacy than what he's put up in real life?
If he had 7 championships, probably. It would depend, I think, a little bit on the stats, though. He's at 27 a game now. Is he still at 20, or is he down to like 13?
Well, no.
But at 12 assists.
He's the 6th greatest scorer of all time in terms of points.
Yeah, but you don't know who the 6th greatest scorer of all time is now. So, like, it sounds impressive on a resume list. But if you were like, hey, who's number 6? You'd be like, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know who number 5 is, actually. I don't know who's below. I don't know who's below MJ.
I'd say the only thing about that hypothetical, and it is a hypothetical, is if you're giving them those same matchups, I think even with a more pass outlook, even though he's considered a pass first player anyway, like he lost 3 times to the Warriors. I don't think they beat any of those Warriors teams. If LeBron is throwing the ball to, Kyrie Irving more, or even, in the last one, he didn't even have Kyrie Irving. So if he's trying to pass to J.R. Smith,
he would definitely have better overall teammates around him than what he's had, besides just his star teammates.
So I don't know. It is a good question because then you're leaning more on the championships. But a lot of LeBron's GOAT argument now comes from the fact that he's on this list of fastest player ever to 20,000, 30,000, and only player ever with 30,000 points and 10,000 assists and 8,000, or just whatever like that number is. He's the only one guy on a lot of those lists, and that's where people point to him being the GOAT. So I think it would be interesting. I think probably what hurts LeBron, honestly, even more in the GOAT case, is there's still this weird narrative now that he's not clutch. And it might have been true his first couple of years in the league, even though he beat the Pistons by being one of the most clutch players of all time, at least in that game, right? But it's him passing up the last shot. Right. That's always been something that's been knocked against him. He did it this year. I forgot who he passed the ball to. But it was another debate next day on First Take on Undisputed. This is why LeBron can't be the GOAT, because he's passing the ball. So I don't know that him passing the ball more would help his argument. The team success would, obviously. Right. But then I think the stats case where now it goes to LeBron, I think that would shift towards more Jordan. And I don't know. I feel like you'd still have more people who consider MJ the GOAT. I do like the question, though. It's one that I've never thought about.
Well, so in my mind, what goes along with, because we all know LeBron can pass, obviously, look at his assist numbers. But it's in the offense that it bothers me more than anything else. And that's why I brought up Magic and the offense the Lakers ran around him with Showtime, where it was make or miss, we moving. Everyone find a lane. I'm going to find somebody for an easy basket. And LeBron never was that. It was get into a half-court offense, give LeBron the ball, and hope something happens. It's been that way in LA. It was that way in Cleveland. It was that way in Miami towards the end, and it's that way in Cleveland the first time around, where it's just I don't know what offense they run with LeBron.
I mean, it's a heliocentric offense, which now you've seen adapted and even not optimized, because that implies that it's doing better, but I guess just enhanced or used on steroids with a guy like Luka or what Harden used to be. So it's still kind of that same offense where the thought was always surround LeBron with 4 shooters and then let him go to work. But his best success came with the Heat, where he didn't have 4 shooters around him. They tried to turn Chris Bosh into a shooter, and he got there eventually. But Dwayne Wade was never a shooter. Now, they did have guys like Ray Allen and Shane Battier. So maybe that's the formula.
Mike Miller.
Get LeBron another ball handler, because Kyrie's the same way. I mean, Kyrie's an outstanding shooter in his own right. But Kyrie was never the, hey, play the shooter role. Right. Mm-hmm. Just go stand in the corner and I'll find you. So maybe that's it. Right. Get 3 shooters and then just one more ball handler for LeBron. And then you can find some success with them, because it's too, the best success he's had has been with Dwayne Wade and Kyrie Irving.
All right. I'm tired of talking about old stuff. Let's talk about new stuff. Let's talk about young stuff. We got young cats here in Detroit on our Stones. We snatched one of them up last year, Killian Hayes. A lot of people disappointed with that pick, disappointed with the career that he had his first year, where he only played, not even half the games.
No, 26 games,
27
maybe.
games.
Yeah.
So, the argument when we talk about young cats, it's, let's give them a full year. And when we say a full year, we mean a full year's worth of basketball.
Yep. 82 games.
82 games. Killian Hayes, we passed that year point, Ryan.
Yep. My man. So I love the Killian Hayes pick. We did a on our old podcast and on Detroit Sports Nation, so you guys can probably find it. We did a NBA draft reaction type of show, I believe, or maybe we did it straight on the podcast. I can't remember, but I was super excited about Killian Hayes. I thought he was the best player in the draft that he was drafted in, and through the first year of his NBA season definitely did not shake out that way, and a lot of parts of this NBA season didn't shake out that way. But what's happened is Jeremy Grant has gone down. Cade hurt himself. Please God be all right. And Killian Hayes has really come on. Now, I know the Pistons are tanking, so they're playing Hayes 40 minutes. Right. So I know he's not putting up these numbers in a typical 28 to 32 minutes a night. They need him to play a lot, but he's been playing well. Just the other night, he had 26 points, 7 boards, 8 assists, and 5 steals. And he's the first Piston with a 25, 5, 5, and 5 game, since Grant Hill did it in 1998, more than 20 years ago. So that's the type of versatility that I think Killian Hayes brings. And it's the type of versatility that I think, that I saw, at least in his game when we picked him. Not saying he's going to be Grant Hill. He's probably not. And he's not going to have the opportunity to be, because Cade Cunningham is going to be the guy with the ball in his hands most of the time. Mm-hmm. But I do think Killian Hayes can grow into a really nice player here. And I just wish Pistons fans, and even fans in general, because it's not just a Detroit thing, aren't so quick to write off a guy after an injury-riddled first season, and then the second season where, again, they're just getting hurt sporadically, and you're not able to keep that momentum, especially these young guys, right? Killian's coming into the NBA. I think it was 18 years old, 18 or 19. Yeah. Give him 3 years. Then let's see what you have. Even give him 5 and he's still 23 years old. Just be patient and see what you have. And I think the Pistons do have a good one in Killian.
Well, I'll tell you what I see over the last so many games is a confidence that we didn't see as much.
He's hitting step back threes after crossovers.
Right.
Beautiful.
And when he's driving to the hoop, it looks like he knows what he's doing, whether it is for his own or to kick out. He's not shying away from contact. He's got a little bit of swagger to him, which is nice to see. And we're starting to see what could be with someone like this. Now, is he going to be a 30 point a night game? No. might not even be a 20, but he can be a 15, and he can get you 8 assists, and he can get you a few rebounds and some steals and lock down defensively. Like, you give me a backcourt pairing of Cade, what he does, and the points that he can score, and then Killian chipping in his own 15 to 17 a night to go along with some really great defense and his own 6-7 assists a game. That sounds like a winner to me.
If Killian is giving you 15, 8 assists, 6 boards, and like 2 steals a night, I'm not going to shut up about it. You're gonna get tired of me talking about Killian Hayes, because that would be the perfect complement next to Cade. We talked about it a little bit when he was drafted. I thought the two could really mesh well together because they can both handle the ball and they can both defend. And that's something that he's always been able to do. Even when he was disappointing last year, he was still a really good defender. So I'm really excited for this. I hope it's not just like he's putting up numbers on a team that's tanking and a team that is also playing Isaiah Livers 35 minutes. Yeah. Like, I hope that's not the case. And I don't think it is. I think he'll be able to continue this type of play with with what you just said, with that improving confidence, and I cannot wait to see it.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've talked about our Stones for a long time, and even before we got Cade, we had talked about the team that had been on the floor for the last 4 years in Detroit. And there's one thing I was screaming about all the time, and it was, we have no shooters. We had no shooters. In the last 4 or 5 years of Detroit, there's nobody on the floor that can just get their own shot whenever they want it. And I don't know if I want to go as far as say Saddiq Bey is that, but he's starting to look a little more like it.
Yeah.
I'm starting to imagine the future, and if the future is the backcourt of Cade and Killian, those are two guys with phenomenal court vision, and we need shooters around them because, look, Cade, we've seen what he can do. Cade can get his own. He absolutely can get his own, and he knows when to pass it. He knows when to take it himself. Killian's starting to show that he's more confident driving the ball, and he seems to have a hell of a kick out when he needs to use it, but he's also starting to show that he can finish around the rim as well. Saddiq Bey really turning into a shooter for us here in Detroit.
Man, if Saddiq gets a second contract, he's going to shatter the Pistons' all-time three-point record.
So we need some more, though. And if we get a couple more, 1 or 2 more shooters, maybe in this draft, maybe in a free agency, we know that Jeremy Grant is not going to be here any longer. Let's see what we can get back for him.
We don't know that, but we know that.
But with this young team, and you can see Troy Weaver, you can see, you can kind of see what he sees and what he's putting in place. I think we're in a really good position for these next 2 years of really making a leap. If we can bring in a couple shooters to go along with this backcourt, because they did not give up on Killian, and I think he's at the end of this year has given them reason to make sure not to give up on him.
Yeah, especially if they get a top 3 pick, right? As I think the 4th player in this draft, no matter who's drafting, is probably going to be Jaden Ivey, and he can be great too. And the Pistons still need talent, but if you have him and Killian and Cade, obviously that's a lot of ball handlers. 2 of them who can't really shoot that well, and Cade, who's probably the best with the ball in his hand. So I do think it's a weird fit. If the Pistons fall to 4, I'm taking them and worrying about the fit afterwards, honestly. But if they get one of the 3 bigs in this draft, whether it's Chet, Jabari, or Paolo, then this is a team who can honestly fight for the play-in next year, because they're going to have Cade. They're going to have Saddiq Bey, who's just oozing with confidence, no matter if he's making or missing a shot, right? Isaiah Livers, he looks like a contributing player. He doesn't look like a starter in the NBA, but look where you got him, right? He was picked 54 or something. Like, maybe a little higher than that. Maybe I didn't give him quite enough credit. But you have, again, Isaiah Stewart, energy guy, not really a big, but he plays center. He's just not that big compared, in NBA standards. But that's an energy guy. You have Kelly Olynyk, who I think is still on the contract, a nice vet who, when he's gotten minutes for the Pistons, has played well. I know he's been off and on.
That boy crafty. That boy crafty.
Killian Hayes again. Even guys like Frank Jackson and Marvin Bagley, who have played better than expectations would lead you to believe. And if Cade is really that dude that we all think he is, if the Pistons are able to pair him with another rookie, who can hit the top of this draft, looks very well, no matter if you're drafting 1, 2, or 3, and to an extent even 4, but like really those top 3 guys all look like not like they're can't miss, but look like they're really like they're gonna be really good players, and they can contribute at an NBA level. Then the sky isn't the limit for the Pistons next year, but it's a team that you can easily see fighting for a playing spot, and get another top 3 pick. And this is a team who can accelerate the rebuild fast, just like the Tigers did. I'm sure you guys talked about that on Straight Shooting, but I think there are kind of some parallels between these two teams where you think it's going to be bad. Boom, the Tigers trade for Austin Meadows, and now people are talking about, oh, hey, they can get a wild card. Right, the wild card is kind of equivalent to the play-in in the NBA, right, where now if the Pistons get Paolo Banchero, boom, that's a wild card, right? That's the play-in. So I'm super excited, really, to see where next year is, and I hope those lottery balls fall in our favor.
Even better than that, to keep going this way the next 4 or 5 years, we see Cade Cunningham next to the word MVP.
Yep, MVP, first team All NBA.
Ain't seen that yet. But we got a hell of an MVP race going on right now. So, is it a repeat for the Joker? Has Embiid's time finally come? Are you feeling freaky? A little Greek freaky? These numbers keep changing, Ryan. I swear to God, a week and a half ago, Embiid was the favorite. I swear I saw that. I saw a negative and a number next to his name. All of a sudden, I'm seeing Joker at minus 300, Embiid at plus 270, Greek freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo at plus 600. So I don't know what happened in the last week to flip it back from Embiid to Joker, but looking like a Joker repeat right now by the way Vegas is talking about it.
Yeah, well, what really changed the odds was those the ESPN straw poll that they made for the MVP, where like you can roll your eyes and people say, "Oh, it's just ESPN, whatever." I would bet everything that I own that they polled at least a couple of MVP voters. And that's a straw poll that Joker won by a landslide because the media, the MVP voters are the media. So I don't think ESPN just polled a random, 100 people or like random people that worked in their office. I think they got, votes from guys who have MVP votes, right? Or poll results from guys who have MVP votes. So I do think at least at that time, it was pretty indicative of how you can expect the MVP voting to go. And Jokic has the advanced stats, beat out with in terms of him versus Embiid versus Giannis. I think Giannis, if you're just looking at the eye test, is the best player from all three. Reigning Finals MVP, NBA champion, obviously, and Joel Embiid has just been consistent, the entire year, and has definitely, maybe not faced the most turmoil because Jokic lost his last 2 players, but I think his other best 2 players. But Embiid has faced probably the most, not media scrutiny, but the biggest media circus with the James Harden thing now and the Ben Simmons thing before. Whereas when Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr., were out for the season, everyone was just kind of like, because they didn't expect the Nuggets to really do anything anyway. But the trade-off of that is Jokic has the least amount of team success between Embiid and Giannis. I think the Nuggets right now they're not fighting to be in the play-in, but it's a team that's trying to fight to get out of it, right? Kind of hovering with that 7 seed. So it's interesting. My vote would be for Jokic. I think what he's done with the teammates that he's had has been super impressive. But Embiid had the Sixers at the top spot in the East, or fighting for the top spot in the East for a really long stretch of the year. And what Giannis has done just this last month, really 2 weeks, where it's just statement game after statement game after statement game. They had the game against the Sixers where he blocked Embiid to win the game.
He had a 40-point, double-double and blocked Embiid's game winner to win the game. Yeah.
And Giannis, I think Giannis is the best two-way player of the 3. Jokic is probably the most interesting, and Embiid's I don't even know if Embiid's more dominant than Giannis. It's just how good Giannis is. But it's it's a really good MVP race, and I had to take even just a month ago, maybe when we talked about it, not that long, where I said I think Jokic is MVP, and I think it should be unanimous because I think most MVPs should be unanimous. I don't think this one should be unanimous anymore.
Mm-hmm.
These three guys should be neck and neck and neck, and I think they will be. Maybe not so much like it might not be the closest voting we've ever had, but I think we'll have all three of these guys with a first place vote, with multiple first place votes. I should be, which we don't usually see.
Yeah, so let's break down the straw poll real quick, and I'm going to get into the, exactly a bunch of the things that you said. So ESPN asked 100 media members to participate. It's informal. To make it as realistic as possible, they used 2 voters from each of the league's 28 markets, and then they also brought in national, international reporters to get those votes as well. And the votes were collected over a bunch of days. They did this before back in mid-February, and that was when Embiid was in the lead, which is why probably exactly what you said. We saw all the time Embiid was the favorite. In this last one, Joker claimed 62 of 100 first-place votes, and so it was a narrow victory over Embiid, a little bit of a larger victory over Giannis, but 860 points to Joker, 719 to Embiid, and 593 to Giannis. Now, when you look at what exactly the things that you were talking about with Nikola losing Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr., and despite doing that, 27 points, 14 rebounds, basically, 8 assists, while shooting 58% from the field.
It's crazy.
Leads the league in triple doubles with 19, the second most by a center behind only Will Chamberlain. And he's in the top 10 in points, rebounds, and assists per game, as well as field goal percentage, which is something no one's done over the last 50 years. So his numbers are absolutely ridiculous, even though his team is absolutely not ridiculous. Now, Embiid got his team fighting for that first place point spot in the East. Same with Giannis, averaging 30, 12, and 4. And he's probably the most unstoppable big man in the league today. And he's gotten better as the season's gone on. And he's averaging over 30 points throughout the last 3 months. He's very consistent. He goes about his business and gets his buckets, and he's been getting his team wins, even with dealing with the media circus that you were talking about, his own circus on the team of Ben Simmons and now James Harden. And then you got Giannis, former MVP, probably Defensive Player of the Year, very much missing stars of his own. Lost Brook Lopez. What'd he do? He stepped up and played center. Middleton and Drew Holiday, slow seasons. Giannis became the primary playmaker to make up for them not starting the season hot. They started getting hotter. Team started getting better. Giannis not having to do as much, and then at the same time going out and doing everything, a la what we just talked about with that last game against the Sixers, and he's coming on strong now. And I absolutely agree with what you said. This should not be a unanimous. I think Giannis is more on the outside looking in, just a little bit more out of the other two. If I was going to pick one that I thought would have the least amount of votes, I think it would be Giannis this year. You can legit make an argument for all three of these guys and a detracting argument for all three of these guys, depending on which angle you want to take. And I mean, who are we to go against what all the media voters are saying?
Right. I mean, so I do think this is interesting because it's typically like this in, most seasons, right? The best player doesn't always win MVP. I think Jordan only has maybe 6 of them, right? Magic has 5. I think LeBron only has about 4.
Wait, season MVPs?
Yeah.
Season MVPs, Kareem's got 6. I think MJ's got 5.
Okay.
Magic and Bird both have 3. LeBron
okay, cool. So, yeah, I mean, so that just goes to show the NBA or the MVP doesn't always go to the best player in the NBA.
Shaq's got 1.
Yeah, Kobe's got 1.
Shaq's got 1. Kobe's got 1. AI's got 1. Like, Tim Duncan's got 1. Like,
so who do you think, not MVP, who do you think is just the best player in the NBA right now?
Part of me wants to say Steph, but I don't know if I can say Steph for overall NBA player. Joker, I can say for a lot of reasons, but defensively, he's a bit of a liability. Giannis might be. He's got it on defense, and he's figured it out a lot more on offense. He's learned a bit of an outside jump shot to go along with his paint dominance. If you put a gun to my head, I'd say the argument is Joker and Giannis. with Embiid probably just outside of that group. It's probably these three, just of overall basketball play, offensively, defensively, assists, getting your teammates involved. Like, to me, basketball is a team game. That's why I've always hated the whole greatest player crap. Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kobe, Magic, whoever. Basketball is a team game, and you can be the greatest at something. You can be the greatest at one particular spot of it, position-wise, whatever. But to me, being the best at basketball means that you are playing great as a team and you are winning basketball games. So I'm weird like that, but
I think, I don't want to say Joker's not in the argument, but he doesn't even like cross my mind for me, because I do think Giannis is a better player. What he does on both ends, he's shown it in the playoff, and not that Jokic has been bad in the playoffs, but what you said, like, he doesn't have the team around him that Giannis did. But for me, it's either Giannis or KD. And as much as I want to say KD, because I love his shooting, it's a clear advantage that he has over Giannis, is KD can fire it from anywhere. The other night, I think he just had 55 points, but they lost that game. To go to you got to win, right? He had 55 points in a loss. I don't know, man. Giannis, it's just every time I watch him, he's adding more to his game, and it's unbelievable. Like, he's becoming a better defender. He's becoming a better passer. He's becoming a better shooter. I think his free throw numbers, I don't have them in front of me this year, but they're like respectable. He's not taking the 10 seconds anymore. You can't even count down because he's not taking that long, and he's making them. His 3-point shot, I think he's at 30 or 31%, which not great, but hey, it'll do. It's not anything that now if a team leaves you open. He hit not a dagger 3 the other night, but a 3 to, I think, either take the lead real late or like tie the game really late. So to me, he's just that guy when his team always needs him to call, like, they call on him an awful lot, and it seems like he always comes through. Maybe it's the championship bias from last year, and remembering the 50 piece he dropped in game 6 to seal the title. But to me, I do think Giannis is the best player. I do think Jokic should be the MVP, but I don't know. Giannis is just he's unbelievable every time I watch him. Not that all these guys aren't, I guess, but Giannis just pops out more to me.
I mean, when you up your point total now to your highest of your career, which is what he's at right now. He finished at 30.1. It is the highest of his career. 29.5 was 2 years ago. And you also increased your assists a little bit as well. So you're still making sure your teammates get theirs. Like, and you play defense and you rebound the basketball. Like, and I mean, when I say defense, I mean play real defense, like not LeBron chase down block defense, but actually want to take on the guy, face him up with the ball, and lock him down.
And like, and the Bucks are a good team too. Like, but he's not playing with James Harden, right? He's a Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday.
Chris Middleton,
very good players. Love them. But if you had a team with just Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday as the 2 best players, you're probably looking at a play-in, or you might be like where the Pelicans are at right now with McCollum and Brandon Ingram, and you're trying to fight your way into a play-in spot. And now you add Giannis, and you're NBA champion, top 3 seed in the East. And I don't know, it's just what he does is impressive, and I do think maybe he doesn't get enough credit for, not even for how bad his teammates are, but you know what I'm trying to say. He's not like
no, I know. No.
He's not out here playing with the Kevin Durant, Steph Curry war.
No, absolutely not. Chris Middleton is streaky as can be. He can be fantastic, absolutely fantastic. He can end up leading the team in scoring, and he can also just absolutely disappear. Now, he has done the disappearing act a lot less over the last 2 to 3 years, but there were a lot of years of Chris Middleton just being there and not really doing his part as Robin to, Giannis's Batman. And he stepped it up. He definitely stepped it up in the finals last year. He is the reason, his play is the reason that Phoenix is not a defending world champion right now. Chris Middleton stepped it up and made damn sure that Giannis had help, and Milwaukee ended up, coming back and winning that. If he's not involved, they're not that good of a team. So he is very important, but yes, he's not. Giannis has done a lot with not as much as other teams have, other stars have.
And shout out to some of these other guys, John Morant, Devin Booker, DeMar DeRozan, guys who have had really nice years, but I don't think they should be in the conversation for MVP anyway. But they've had nice years, and they'll probably finish, anywhere from 4th to 8th. Luka too, who's been on some stupid, incredible tear.
Nothing
lately.
wrong with being a top 10 MVP voter.
No, for sure. That'll go right on. That goes right on the basketball reference page.
Yes, it does.
Top 10 votes.
But it can only be one, just like every year. And we think we have our 3 that are going to be the top 3 vote getters. Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think Joker ends up stealing it away from Embiid in the end, but I think it's going to be pretty close.
And if there's only one podcast you can listen to, make sure it's Throwin Stones.
Absolutely. So that is it for us tonight. Got to remind you, like, subscribe everywhere you can find us: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. He's Ryan Griffin. I'm Matt Basson. We Throwin Stones. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight. We'll see you guys again real soon.
That's right. Killian stock going up.
Mm-hmm.
Man on a mission, I'ma get it. You know I be on a